The missiles are not flying anymore between India and Pakistan. The fighters are all on the ground. At least they're not firing missiles at each other. But India has already begun thinking about what that next battle is going to look like. Remember, India has changed the rules of engagement as far as Pakistan is concerned. Their Prime Minister has made a shameless appeal for peace talks, even though they've made no commitment to actually get rid of terror on their soil. And that's the reason why, viewer, tonight on India Matters, we're going to talk about how India, the Indian government, the Indian system is already thinking about what happens if there is another provocation. It's a big day, in fact, today for air power after what has been a milestone month for the Indian Air Force. Starting 20 days ago, our fighter pilots pulled off a historic high-precision strikes deep inside Pakistan, destroying terror hubs and military air bases using their current fleet of fourth-generation fighter jets like the Rafale, the Sukhoi 30, Mirage 2000, MiG-29, etc. It was an unmistakable show of force, a declaration of what India's air power can achieve even without what we call stealth, the ability to be low observable, evade radar, and generally not come to the attention of enemy sensors. But now the government has done something perhaps even more significant for the long game. Today it announced a big step forward in the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft. I'm going to call it AMCA. India's long-anticipated fifth-generation stealth fighter program. If you didn't know that such a program existed, well, it does, and it's moving forward. And this time, for the first time ever, the government has thrown open the playing field, not just to state-run organizations like Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and the DRDO, but to private sector firms as well, to bid for a chance to build prototypes of what could become one of the world's most potent stealth fighter aircraft. Now, this public-private competition marks a tectonic shift in how India does high-end defense manufacturing. It's a complete sea change from what we've always done. Defense manufacture has always been the monopoly of the Sarkari organizations. This time, for the first time, a combat aircraft could potentially be built in the private sector. Yes, we're still piecing together the full picture of the India-Pakistan air battle, but what's beyond dispute, viewer, is that Operation Sindoor dealt massive, calculated damage to Pakistan. Now imagine doing that with stealth fighters like the AMCA that are almost invisible to radar, harder to intercept, and capable of striking deeper and deadlier. That's the future that the AMCA that is moving ahead today promises. The pressure on India to acquire stealth aircraft has been mounting. China has unveiled so-called sixth-generation prototypes, has multiple fifth-generation fighters flying already in service, and is expected to, well, surprise, surprise, hand over some of these stealth fighters called the J-35 to Pakistan very soon. The air power balance in the region was beginning to look lopsided. Now that left India with two choices: import or innovate. Buy Russia's Sukhoi Su-57, which Moscow is practically begging to sell, or lean into America's F-35 Lightning II offer, which Trump had symbolically opened up to India earlier this year, right after taking over as president. But with India's own AMCA push, India has chosen neither the Russians nor the Americans. No Su-57, no F-35. This decision today by the Indian Ministry of Defense under Rajnath Singh and the government under Prime Minister Modi is a bold, confident message. Our next generation stealth aircraft will be made right here in India. It's a massive leap forward, and it signals that the next time India strikes an adversary from the skies, it won't just be with fury, it'll be with futuristic stealth. And to talk about what today's decision actually means, I'm joined by a former chief of the Indian Air Force who's been a bigger advocate, a bigger proponent of Made in India, Atmanirbharta, self-reliance, whatever you want to call it, than him. Air Chief Marshal Rakesh Kumar Singh Bhadauria, veteran fighter pilot, former chief of the air staff. Always a privilege and an honor to have you with us, sir. My first question to you: this is something that you yourself have personally advocated. Big decision by the Indian government today to open the playing field and get the private sector in on pushing India's stealth fighter aircraft project forward? Your opening words, sir.
No, I have seen this development today with great interest, and I think there was a lot of debate on this issue on AMCA in terms of participation of private sector along with the HAL, and there were many aspects of it which were debated at length. And I'm so happy that today the government has come out with this clear execution model wherein private sector would get equal participation or any level of participation that they desire along with public sector, and in whatever model gets finalized. So to me it's a huge leap of faith in terms of what the MOD has demonstrated their faith in the private sector to be able to take up such kind of project. And this is the top end project that the industry is going to handle. So firstly, a huge development.
Yeah.
Secondly, now I see it as time for the private sector to come up and demonstrate their ability to deliver. This is something that they've been talking about over the last decade. They want increased partnership, they want level playing field, they want everything in terms of technology development and production. And here it is. So it is again from industry perspective a game changer, but also time for the private sector, for MSMEs and startups to get their act together and ensure that they deliver on this huge faith being reposed in them.
It's incredible, Chief Bhadauria. No private sector company has ever led the development and manufacture of a fighter aircraft. And today's decision by the Indian government in that way is a landmark one. How would you read that? What would, in your view, would be the ideal bid? A public-private partnership, fully private, fully public? What do you think?
If I understand what you're saying, I think that effort was initiated by DPSUs to look at, by HAL in particular, to look at private partnership model. There was some interaction with the industry, and that is totally at a different level and with a different mindset that it was addressed. And it all depends on how you state this problem and how you want to address it. Now it is a government diktat and a direction that the implementation model would be open to private sector and public sector or any form of consortium. And this is totally different. So I think this is the right way to do, wherein private sector gets to say their piece, absolutely in full. They can apply for it, or they can bid for it totally independently. Yeah. They can bid along with HAL. They can bid, make some sort of consortium, SPV, whatever. So it is different. Previously it failed for different reasons. Now there is no question of it not succeeding, because it has straight come from the government and it has just leveled the playing field. It has given them an opportunity that they never had.
Chief Bhadauria, so is today's announcement pushing forward the AMCA a direct signal to the United States and Russia that we don't want the Su-57 or the F-35, we are going to only build our own stealth fighter?
Undoubtedly, it's a very clear signal that we will build our own. It's a very clear signal on the path to build our own, and it's also a clear indication of the faith of the government in terms of developing it indigenously and going on to this 5th and 6th generation technologies to for the Indian Air Force absolutely indigenously. It's also a big statement for inclusion of private sector, I say again, at the cost of repetition, in the ecosystem of this change in a very big manner. And I think that is the way to go. It will make so much of a difference in terms of our industrial capacity growth and capability growth in the future. It is an absolute game changer in terms of what it will do for private and public partnership and synergies in defense production.
Operation Sindoor has just gotten over 20 days ago. We saw 4th generation fighter aircraft being used this time around. Any connection, or is this separate?
A lot of discussion on this matter had been going on, to the best of my knowledge. But let me first get back to what progress was taking place. The fact that this announcement was not made doesn't mean that in the last over 1 year after AMCA project was cleared, no work has happened. ADA has been fully into it in terms of design and development work that needed to go on. But this decision was important. It was under discussion. And now I think the relationship that you're drawing in terms of what China has done and what Operation Sindoor has changed in terms of how we look at this, how we look at air power, and how we look at what is going to matter in the years to come in terms of long standoff capability, in terms of survivability in very, very contested environment. Therefore, the importance of stealth in terms of what kind of weapons you will be able to use and in kind of what kind of air-to-air weapons that you need to have. In all these matters, and the importance of indigenous technology. How our air defense worked, which was largely based on indigenous core. How important is highly tech-oriented systems like S-400 Rafale to the entire game plan, to the BrahMos kind of precision equipment, to other standoff weapons that we had. So, importance of indigenous and this sudden decision on this announcement, I think are linked. The government is indicating how serious it is to energize the indigenous ecosystem in defense production, and have indicated a very clear show of faith in the system to be able to do this important step. This is not an easy decision to go on to private sector for aircraft like stealth aircraft. And I think this is, in terms of ability to depend on our indigenous production, a huge step.
Air Chief, the fact that China has tried to unveil its so-called sixth generation fighters, they're going to be giving some of their stealth fighters to Pakistan very soon. That has, of course, added some pressure. But also, there is this question over what India's Operation Sindoor might look like if stealth fighters are brought into the mix. What's your view on that?
Okay, in the moment you have the kind of contested environment that we have, and Pakistan having the latest in terms of technologies, while West is slowing down, China has supported through and through, absolutely, in terms of their latest technologies, both in sensors and weapons. Therefore, from sensors, from survivability point of view, stealth has become center stage in terms of any aircraft that is going to take part in combat or in offensive operations. Stealth is important to delay the detection and be able to, do the missions in a very hostile environment. So that's the best bet, to have a real stealth aircraft. The next, I think, issue is to have the right kind of weapons. Huge standoff ranges for air to ground, very precise, very, not vulnerable to GPS jamming, to other kinds of jamming. So very survivable in terms of the environment. So that is where these technologies will have a very good importance in what will go into fifth generation aircraft. And the next is air-to-air missiles. So air to ground, air to air, the kind of weapons, the kind of environment we have. From that perspective, this stealth aircraft development is important. Is this going to give us the only solution? No. Apart from this, I think we have to really develop on our efforts that we need to make on LRSAM kind of equipment. That is the S-400 equivalent that is into indigenous design and development. We need to go on to our networks and capabilities and encryption and ability to have safe networks as we go forward.
My final question to you, Air Chief, is a little bit on a personal experience level. You've been the Air Chief. You trained on different fighters. You've operated on different fighters. You've been on combat patrol missions on different fighters, and now you've got these stealth fighters that will be coming in a few years for a new generation of pilots. Give us a pilot's cockpit perspective of what it feels like, comparing what you trained on and what's coming up for the next generation.
Okay, what we trained on and what we started with was close combat, was attacking targets from close, were doing air to ground from close, and thereafter the sensors, the weapons, and the distances just kept increasing. So we are talking of combat which was anywhere from 300 meters to 2-3 kilometers away, and weapons being released at 1 kilometer distance from ground targets. And now we are at 200 kilometers plus ranges of striking ground targets, and 150 to 200 kilometers of striking air targets. So huge change as seen from the cockpit. But more importantly, I think a huge responsibility for the pilots in cockpit today to be very, very, updated and technologically very savvy, to be able to handle this kind of workload, which requires a lot of effort and knowledge. In a networked environment, to handle this number of aircraft, to handle data from so many sensors, so many weapons, to handle data from not only coming from ground, in future from AWACS, satellites, everything is going to be fed to the pilot, although in a much decision support system supported wise, be it AI, be it other decision support systems. So the pilot in terms of his capability and what he's expected to do is undergoing a huge change.
It's incredible always to have someone who's been such a big supporter of self-reliance, Air Chief Bhadauria, and I thank you for your time on an important day when a decision of this kind has been taken by the Indian government.